There we go. So I'm starting the recording. Once again, our next session here for Western Washington Native Education Consortium's tips and resources for Title VI programs. And it'll be focused on the part 2 of the Title VI grant. So these are some of the possible topics, and depending on what things people feel are really important, maybe they want to add, or maybe, you know, we can jump over some of these. These are some of the areas. So the deadlines that everybody's facing. Some good advice and tips regarding, especially for the new ones, how do you do your goals? What are some ideas around developing budget and even personnel? So if you have any cool ideas you want to share or just your experience, I think that'll be valuable. I think tribal consultation for those who need to do it is a huge one. So hopefully, like last time you guys advised them to schedule it, hopefully it is scheduled, and you can share some information regarding that. Open hearing, again, some advice regarding that and how you set that up. And then the approval process, and COVID-19 is going to be interesting. And it was, I guess, last year. How are you going to get the signatures, and what process are you going to use? Any other recommendations that you might have? And then the last one here, what kind of pitfalls do you want to let people know they should avoid in filling out this grant application? So with that, I just want to say to everyone out there, make sure that you visit the hub. I call this the hub. And everything you want to know about the EASIE grant process will be at this address up here, easiegrads360.org. easiegrads360.org. And I'm going to put this into the chat. And whoops, where's my chat? There it is. So when I was first looking up stuff for this, I kept kind of having to look at my old emails and everything, and go to websites, and I found out that everything regarding all the announcements and everything is right here at this site. So once you get that and bookmark it or make a note of it, you can always come here. So announcements, introduction, EASIE Part 1, EASIE Part 2. Did anybody attend the webinars?
I did on a Tuesday.
Okay, great. So you got to see the first webinar. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, right here again at this site, you click on EASIE Part 2. All the webinars will be here. The slides, the PowerPoint slide presentations, the webinar recording, you can view here, and you can also download it as well. Question and answers are really cool. So you can get that, and it'll be the responses directly from Office of OIE staff as they respond to questions. I found some really valuable information last time in that chat, and some of them aren't voiced in the webinar themselves. Okay, so Part 2 webinar. There's 2 of them here. So there's the first one looks like it's been done, and then there's another one coming up. All right. Oh, here's some stuff. Then again, one of the topics we talked about is writing your grant and budget and that thing. So here's some cost principles and your EASIE application. From what I was reading, the early thing, OIE is getting a little more detail oriented in how the money is tied and justification for it. So I think that's really good to see. I just breezed over it. I didn't get into it in depth, but I think they're getting a little more detail oriented on how do you justify the costs that you are claiming. Okay. All right. Before we leave that, does anybody have any things they want to say about these webinars and stuff like that? Martha, did everything go well in that webinar that you saw?
Yeah, it did. There was a few questions I had, but I did call them this morning too, because they were supposed to send a personalized um link or something like that. I could not find it nowhere. It was not in my junk mail or whatnot. Anyway, so they sent me a notice, but it wasn't the same email.
No, Martha, they're not going to send it to you. They're going to send it to your.
Okay, you cut out, Val.
Oh, they're not going to send you the link. They're only going to send it to your superintendent, and then he can forward that email to you to access.
It don't go to the superintendent. It goes to, I'm the one that does the grant.
I know, but who certifies your grant?
I do.
Oh, well then, yeah, I guess you should have.
Yeah. So anyway, I called this morning. They sent it to me. So that's what I'll do when I get off of here.
Oh, great. So that's a little tip there. If it doesn't come in, call them. Way to go, Martha.
Well, and it said too to check your junk mail and check your junk mail and your spam or your trash, and it didn't come. And then when they sent it to me, it was even from the OIE instead of who they said it was coming from. So
Yeah, and I think in districts, it is that way, that the superintendent receives the email too as well. So,
yeah.
all right.
Well, it doesn't go to my superintendent. It goes to my supervisor, but I'm the one that does the grant. So I guess she's CC'd and then I'm the one that does all the work. Put it in.
All right, if I clicked on announcements up here, so under the announcements tab, letting everybody know part 2 is open, updates, certified Indian counts. So I heard some different talk about that there's a change in that. So I clicked on that and it came up to this announcement through the Federal Register. So Mary, you had a question about this. So if we could kind of replay that conversation.
Yes. Okay, on Thursday, I was able to take the webinar and it was kind of spotty, but I thought that I had heard that we would have the opportunity to take the higher of the two numbers from 2020 to 2021. And so for like my district, 2021, I had 275 students certified. And in 2021, 22, I only had 265. So my question was, can I use my numbers from last year because it's the higher number? And so it does look like, it appears that our, we will be able to use our numbers from last year if they were higher due to the pandemic. And so I just wanted to reconfirm with everyone if they heard that same message from Department of Education through Office of Indian Education, that if our numbers were higher from the previous year, we would have that ability to use those numbers.
Okay,
So
Val,
I wanted to just
Val
with
had
everyone.
Val had some comments, and Val, for those who are just getting started, when they go into part 2, what are they going to see in terms of allocation and student count numbers? What are they going to see?
It's going to be pre-filled in there. And I went into mine just before the web or before this and was kind of just filling out some stuff, and they did use my last year's count, which was 2 higher than this year's count. So it was already pre-filled in there. It wasn't like an option of which one you want. They already just stuck in the higher number.
Great. All right. And they gave you the amount of your allocation too as well?
Yes, and because I was using last year's count, so I did end up getting more money this year than I did last year. So I guess I got more per student.
Oh, wow, great. So with that discussion, then this section right here, because of COVID, they did make this change for this year on the grants. So Office of Indian Ed will compare the students' current student count for 2021 with the student count provided in 2020. OIE will allocate awards based on the higher of the student counts reported in either 2020 or 21. So yeah, so I didn't see this myself till this morning. I was looking through, I clicked on the announcement. I had heard a little bit about it, and so there it is. So, so it looks like from what we've talked about here, they will already do that on their own. And if your 2020 count is higher, they'll put that in there, and your allocation then will be based on 2020 if it was higher. So that's a cool deal. That's a change because of COVID. All right, great, great, great. Once again here, the dates of things upcoming. Parent Support Center, they've got that going. Key change in personnel, they've been announcing that too as well. So once again, anything you want to know about EASIE, webinars, documents, questions and answers that came through on the live webinars, go to this site, easy.grads360.org. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and get started here. We looked at deadlines, grant goals, budget. Can you see this? Grant goals, budget, personnel? Or are you still looking at the?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool.
The announcements.
Oh, it's the announcement.
Okay, let me change this. Do share. There we go. Thank you. Once again, and then we'll find out too if there's any changes, but does somebody want to go ahead and share with people what is the actual process as you're looking at the computer screen around goals, budget, personnel, and those kind of things? And I think they call them activities. They don't use the term goals. I think they call them activities of your Title VI program.
I can go first.
Go ahead, Mark.
I haven't gone into my grant yet to look at it, but I know when I go in, the first place I'm going to go is look at those activities, because I'm not recreating a whole new program. I'm going to use some of the same goals and objectives that I've used in my previous year. So every year I just do a one-year grant and redo it every year. And so we will be adding, I think we're going to be adding a few activities. So hopefully they will be in the pull down menus when I work with my parent committee. And so I know that's one thing that we looked at in our March parent committee meeting. I did notice there was some other changes. So Arlie, did you want me just to go through the grant goals, just that first line there, or could I talk about other stuff?
Oh, you can talk about other stuff. Yeah, if it's related, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So once I do that, I'm hoping it's going to be as straightforward as it was last year, because we're really not changing anything. We want to restart up some of our programming because it was delayed. Some of it because of the COVID and having to do things online. So we're hoping that we're going to go back to our normal way of operations starting in September. I did notice that the Indian Parent Committee form is a little bit different. It's updated from last year. So it does require our parent committee chair to sign it this year. I'm going to turn off my video because it says I have unstable internet. So hopefully you can still all hear me. So I just want to make my parent chair know that she's going to have to put in there her name and her signature, and that she's the parent committee chair, because last year they did not, you didn't put in parent committee chair, you didn't put in your secretary, you just had parent. It was either parent or tribal representative. And then the second page, it looks like on that newly revised Indian Parent Committee form, you would put the people that attended your, that are on your parent committee. So I have several parents, because I run 3 districts, I will have all of them, and it looks like we could actually write their names in. In the past, it appeared we had to have them sign. So now it looks like we have the ability to write that in. So it would only be my parent committee chair signing it. So that's something I'm going to look at. My public hearing is set. We're going to do that on May the 3rd. I know the grant closes, I believe it closes, what was the date on there? May 14th. So I know in the training on Thursday, it said, make sure you certify by May 13th in case there's something that goes on, you know, a glitch with internet or something. I know another thing that I will really look at is the collaboration that occurs between all of the title programs. So I will, because we have to write to that in the grant. So that's been happening in our district for years now. So that's not a hard part to do because I know the collaboration that happens.
Mary, could you explain that a little bit? What is
Yes.
that? What does it mean, collaboration? What exactly are they talking about?
Well, so I have Native students that are in Title I, Title III. There's also like Title IV, there's professional development. So all the title programs, there's collaboration that can occur. And for my district, it does occur because some of those funds are used for our Native students. So when I write to that, they'll give you so many characters to write how you are working with those title programs. And maybe you're not working with the title programs. So you could put in there, you know, we're not working with the title programs, but I know in my districts we do. So that's where I would talk about the collaboration that happens. And then there still is a consultation part. And I know for me, I have to have consultation with Snoqualmie Indian Tribe. So I've already set up with them for them to attend our public hearing on that May 3rd. I know there was something about bylaws. So we started working on our bylaws to revamp them because we hadn't looked at our bylaws for over 10 years. And so I had my parent committee chair and then one rep from each school district signed the bylaws. And so there was a place they said you could upload your bylaws, but if you didn't have them, it wasn't required. So I just thought, you know, to be safe, I'll probably upload the bylaws. We have them, they're up to date now. So I just figured, you know, what is it gonna hurt? I'll upload those along with my Indian Parent Committee form that needs to be uploaded at that time.
Mary, can I jump in for a
So I
sec?
think that's about, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's true. I also noticed that said if you don't have bylaws, then they're required within the next 6 months, I think it is. So this is something that I've been struggling with my parent committee because the bylaws, the samples we have officers that are labeled president, things like that. So we said, well, about chair and something like that. And they're still not happy with that. So there's a close-knit group that have been making the decisions, but they don't have formal titles or anything like that. And so that's an area of work for us.
Okay, good luck on that because I know.
And if you want, I'm more than willing to share my bylaws.
I would love to see those.
Okay. I will
Mary,
send those to you.
Mary, I have a question too.
Yes.
So on the IPC form, it says that you have to list all of your what does it say here? List all parents and family members in the columns that they gave. Does that mean every single one of your families, or does that mean just the ones that are present at your meeting?
I don't know. I'm just going to use the ones that are present at the meeting because they're the ones that are certifying the grant is Because, you know, we're only going to get so many parents at our
Right.
public hearing.
Right.
And so I'm just assuming, I haven't been able to take a really good look at this form yet. So I'm just going to use the parents that are at the meeting that night.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's what they
Yeah, I'm
do.
looking at it right now.
Like normally when you have a sign-in sheet that you know, you always have a
Mhm.
sign-in sheet when you're going to these things. But in here they just, I think they just want them listed in separate columns for some reason. And maybe that's a quick look at who's there,
Hmm.
whatnot, because it says, you know, teachers are different than the parents, but then like if you have a parent that's a teacher too, or you know, vice versa.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's like they want to list themselves and how do they count that? I haven't had a chance to look at it either. I went to download today, but for some reason my computer, every time I go to download, my computer shuts off and says something's wrong with my PC. So I haven't been able to copy anything down today. I had it fixed last week, but it's not.
Welcome to Monday.
I think the only thing
Very
you
sad.
have to worry about is making sure that 50% of the people who sign it need to be parents, because that's where
Right.
some people ran into problems before.
Couple years
So I
ago.
would have only one student, one teacher, and your tribal rep, and then the rest I would do the parents that are at the meeting. So I would limit your student, just use your student representative for your parent committee to
Mhm.
sign.
Yeah.
And you know what? It says current members of your IPC. So I do see that. So
Right. That's where I
would
was like,
just-
oh my gosh, they don't have enough columns for that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you
Well,
just
that
write on there,
says
"See
current members
attachment."
of your, but I'm just going to use the parents
Yeah.
who come that night.
Okay.
Okay,
And then to make sure you have a teacher rep.
what we're looking at here is the slides from the last webinar. So I was able to find these at that site and pull them up. Oops, my annotation is stop. Clear, where's the clear? Right there. Get off of there, clear all drawings. Okay, cool. So great discussion. I had a question. Mary, you went through really quickly with one of the topics. Why is it not moving now? Let me go ahead and stop the share. And some of you might be able to share this too. What if you choose the activities that the grant, so when I did it a few years ago, so I'm hesitating to talk and you guys to do it quickly, but I heard the term drop-down lists. Mary, so there'll be drop-down lists and activities that you can write for your grant. And that's the way it was when I did it too.
There's also on the drop-down list, there's also other, and if you mark that, then it gives you an opportunity to write in what that is.
Okay.
So if you've got something else that's not on the list. And one other thing that because I watched the Tuesday webinar too, and one other thing that I took away that I think is really important for everybody to know is that you can't print your grants until it's been certified. And so as you're going through and filling it out, if you want to present that to your parent council, you'll have to like print each page that you do it as you're doing it, which I usually do anyway. But before we were able to go and, you know, print the whole thing out, but now you can't. So you're going to need to, as you're filling it out, go through and each page, just do a print so that you've got something to show your parent council.
All right.
Another thing too is when you put in after those drop downs, if you put in other and you answer that, and if you don't take a copy of that page, you get to the end of your grant and you go, well, I don't remember putting other in something. Remember what you put, because you have to go back in there and ask your question at the end to make sure you go back and answer that correctly. So if you mark down other in one of those drop downs, they'll probably ask you to go back and take a look at that. So just remember that. I did that one time, so I remember that very well. I was like, I didn't push other. Well, apparently I did. So be careful.
Val, I have a question. Does it look similar to last year's grant? Because I haven't been able to get on mine yet.
It's pretty
The
similar.
activities.
The only place that, well, actually, because it's all pre-filled in there, you know, you're going to see the stuff. What looks different is the section when you're talking about, let me find it. So when you, there was one section, and it's a little confusing when you first look at it, but there's a table down underneath it. Let's see. Hang on a second. I just got to find the page. So the your project description. So when you have your objectives, it'll list your objectives from last year, and then for the grade levels that you chose, and then the data source, that's not required anymore. That I didn't see that anywhere in there before we fill that in, but they didn't have that in there. But so for instance, then you're going to kind of drop down, and it's going to give you a list of all these different objectives, and they're A, B, C, D, E, F, G kind of listed like that. And so then you're going to see this table, and it'll have like A, B, C, D, E, F, G across here, which is coordinate with those objectives. Whatever objective A was, increase school readiness. And then on the left-hand side, there's going to be this whole list of services. And then you just underneath that A, then you click whatever services on that column. And then for B is increase academic achievement. And so you go down that, and then you just click on those. And so that, I mean, it's really not different. It's just a little confusing when you first look at it. And I'm glad I watched the webinar so that I kind of went, oh yeah, I remember that. But basically it's pretty much the same. I didn't see a whole lot different other than, you know, now we have to have our chief financial officer listed on there. And I think there was just some really minor things that look different. And I wasn't able to get any further than I think I'm like 75% done, but I got to the page where I have to upload my Indian Parent Council and the bylaws page. And I haven't had my open meeting yet, so I don't have that to upload. And so before, when I tried to move on and I didn't have something finished, it wouldn't let me. So I didn't go any further than that. I just assumed that it wouldn't, and I ran out of time because I had to do this. But yeah, it looks pretty similar.
So I remember
Thank you.
in previous applications, and this might be what you alluded to there, Val, that there was a place where they're asking for student achievement information. And so it was, they had already pre-filled in Washington State's OSPI data in that box. So is that what you are saying is missing this year?
Well, no, that is missing because we didn't test last year. So there's nothing even on that. But so last year's grant, when we did our objectives, there was like this little, like first we have our service. So say for instance, increased school readiness, and we had culturally responsive academic support. And then our data sources, which is where we were using that, we were using our standardized state testing, our district benchmark success assessments and classroom observations. They're not asking for any of that. The state standardized test, the district benchmark, they're not asking you what data you're using for driving these objectives and the services. That's the only, that is out of there.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, that's good to know, because that appears to be definitely a change. I did find this. This was a question I think some people were asking. Let's see. About the bylaws. Within 6 months receiving award, LEA assumes IPC will adopt and abide by reasonable bylaws. So that's all I saw on that. In terms of submission of it, I didn't see anything. So
You know, they made it sound like you could put it on if you had it, or, you know, it was up
Right.
to you, but
Right.
I think it's always better if you've got it, you might as well upload it, because then you don't have them not, they could come back to you and ask you to do it the next day after you certify. So I just figure I might as well mark all the boxes just to be safe.
And a lot of times in these webinars, like I said, they have live chat along the side, and some of these questions are answered and clarified by OIE during the webinar. So make sure you go and make sure you download the question and answer session, because those are really good to read through. All right, and Mary, you talked about this area where the parent chair is needing to sign, and that's different too. Okay, cool. We talked a little bit about goals and things like that. What kind of tips do you guys have in terms of budget, building your budget for your Title VI grant? Does anybody have a process that they use, or?
Well, we used to have a process that we used, because we actually used to have some money to put into other things for a lot of years now. I mean, really, our grant, because our count isn't super high, our grant it covers like maybe 95% of my wages, and it leaves us a little bit for mileage, and once in a while I've got a little bit I can put into like tutoring or supplies. But I mean, our grant is pretty bare bones. I mean, it's just me, and basically it's me, it's mileage, it's a little bit for direct services for students and supplies, and then that's about it. And it's pretty easy to do our budget, because there's not a lot of money there to work with. So I'm envious of the ones that have a lot of money, that have like more staff people and that, but I'd just be bored anyway, so I guess I'm good.
Oh, great. Thanks for sharing, Val. And there are a lot of Title VI persons in the same situation, especially when the district doesn't put anything into your salaries. Is there anybody here with a different situation that the district actually provides some or all of your salary? And if
Right.
so, how do you figure out your budget?
Well, I do ours. They figure it out where it's coming from Title VI, because I also get Johnson O'Malley. So Title VI is pretty much my salary, and what's not my salary, the district picks up that. But there is also a percentage that is taken for in-kind services, building space. I don't get charged for building space, where I know some buildings, some folks do get charged for their office space. And they have to pay for like the foot or something like that anyway. And then, so I don't have to pay for that. And I don't claim mileage off of mine, because my schools are so close. And I usually start at one school and I usually stay there. So I don't charge mileage, but that money is there if I needed it. But, and then Johnson O'Malley takes up for like projects and tutoring or help with students, along with, I also write a tribal grant. I'm lucky to get one every year. Sometimes once in a while I might get a second one, but usually it's just the one. So I'm pretty lucky there to help out with the tutoring or past programs, or help with cap and gowns, school supplies, office supplies and stuff like that.
So for people who are new, Johnson O'Malley funds are generally given when you're in an urban area only by schools that are very adjacent to a nearby tribe. And the funding doesn't go through the district, it goes to the tribe, and then it's allocated to students in the district. So that's a little bit different than the Title VI thing. And the usage of it is a lot more open, as you heard Martha saying. So when I was working at Seattle Schools, I'll share this experience. I had new parents moving into the district, and then start demanding from us funding for school uniforms and shoes and books and computers, and because they had come from a district with Johnson O'Malley. So it was hard to explain to them that we didn't get that funding because we weren't that adjacent to a tribe. So that's one thing I think it'd be good for people to know. If you're a school district that's near a tribe and don't get Johnson O'Malley funds, then that hopefully that'll be a possibility in the coming years. I think they opened the count a few years ago, and this count was submitted, but I haven't heard that any other districts have been allocated from those funds. So maybe they will in the future. Okay, cool. Any other comments on stuff we've discussed and talked about, or questions? Does anybody have any questions right now?
So I do. Just on the ones who, and I think my district's probably the same, where, you know, the Title VI money goes towards my salary, but you know how they have the different, what is it, categories where you have, can't even think now. Like personnel, supplies.
Yeah, I can bring that up. I was just looking at that. I'll bring
Okay.
it up right now.
I'll wait then.
Oops. I believe that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask, because before we used to like put something in each of the categories, and now it just all goes into personnel. Is that kind of what everyone else does? And then kind of like Val said, whatever's left over, then use for whatever you need.
Well, I know back before you couldn't put 100% into personnel, so you had to put a percentage into personnel, and then in, like mine is indirect costs. So I don't use personnel. I didn't use travel. I didn't use supplies or equipment or anything like that. So I would just put indirect a percentage of what I was doing, and I don't even know what that percentage is, because I always go to the person that's in charge of accounting, and she always does it up. She just goes and it's done. So I just gave her the budget and she does that for me. So I just put in those two, I guess would be personnel, which would be my cost, and then the indirect. Those are the only two that I use.
So does it say anywhere about that percentage? Because I'm pretty sure for the last at least 3 years, all of our grants gone into personnel.
Oh, well, I'm just saying that back in the day, it was when I was filling out, it said 100% couldn't go to administration.
Well,
Michelle?
I think that's a different, anyway, yes.
Michelle, have you gone in and looked at your grant yet? Have you had a chance?
No.
Okay. When you go in there, it's probably going to be all pre-filled in wherever you had it last year.
Okay.
So if it was allowed last year, then I'm guessing it's probably going to be allowed now.
Yeah, and Michelle, I wouldn't change it, because once
Okay.
you change things like that, they're going to ask you, why did you change it from the last year? And
Okay.
it might be a hiccup for you at the very end. So I
Okay.
know for me, like, not all my funding comes out of Title VI, because some comes out of general education. So I just put that amount in there, and I don't use all the areas either. So I would use for personnel, I use some for travel, equipment the school district always buys. I do put some in supplies, because you know, there are supplies that I could use, because it doesn't all, because you got to use all of your money. So I always start personnel first, then I do a little bit in travel. And that's about the areas that I use. But if I were you, I wouldn't switch it
Don't
up
change
from
it.
the previous year. You want to
Okay.
stay kind of consistent, or else they're going to be asking you, why all of a sudden did you start changing? Unless you got a huge amount of more money and you've got $250,000 that you need.
If only.
Okay. That would be my suggestion, is try to stay true to what your plans were.
Yeah.
I
You get an extra 250,000, you'll have to justify that trip to Hawaii as travel.
I have heard some conversation regarding if a district really wants to put a priority on Native education, then maybe should districts then underwrite the cost of the staff so the funding for Title VI can actually go to these other things like that. So I know that conversation has been said. Who knows, maybe it can be a possible topic at the next WWNAEC conference or other places. So I think that's pretty interesting. And you know, the time may be right now with what's happening in the country to make that push. I think everybody's being held to higher accountability, and I think that's just makes sense. At least it does to me. So
I've always said that I'm the best bargain my district has. I write the grants that pay my wages, and then I write the grants that provide the program, you know, the services to like tribal grants and stuff. And I do the Title III stuff for our kids. So, I mean, I'm free.
Yeah, pretty much.
any other comments or questions on the
I
budget?
do.
Yes.
I do. It's Robin. So on budgets, just one thing, we've had a couple of situations in Auburn because a few years ago we had a Muckleshoot grant. So most of our Title VI was would just pay for, let's see, 0.2 of one person's salary and then another staff person's salary. And we've had to do some adjusting in the last couple years in our program overall. So reducing staff is quite a process. It's not my favorite thing. But anyway, the way when we put in for the budget, I never really did add too much on different line items. So for conference or registration, whatever it said there, and then supplies, I kept it pretty small. So, oh gosh, yeah, I'm not seeing it there, but I'm pretty sure there was, maybe it was under travel. I would keep it maybe $500 so that would pay for one of our conferences. And then supplies, I would maybe do $500. And one thing I learned in the last couple years in talking to who is it? Maybe Wanda, I'm thinking. But anyway, she would say, so this is just the reminder and what I wanted to share. So your parent committee is approving your budget. They're the ones that are approving, you know, what you're proposing. And then if we make any changes along the way, so one of the things that happened to me was we had one staff person not complete the school year. So that left an excess of funding. And so I said, well, can I just use it for supplies? So here's what she said. You want to make sure you have that line item. So I did have supplies. And then if it exceeds a certain percentage, you have to go through the whole process. So not only do you have to get your parent committee approval, but you have to go through the title program and tell them, as soon as you know something's awry, you reach out to your title folks and say, we have a situation with our staffing, we're not going to hire, we would like to propose, we're going to do this instead. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because she said it and then she said it again and then she even revisited it with me to make sure that I understood. So
Thank you.
mm-hmm.
It's great to share that kind of experience. Those are really helpful. All right, great discussion, you guys. Let's look at one of the things here that's listed is that I had listed was tribal consultation. So who does that? And can you just walk through a little bit about how you do it? And what do you think are some of the good tips regarding tribal consultation? And I think the baseline is if you're Title VI program receives over $40,000, you're required to have a tribal consultation to get grant approval. If you're under that list, then you don't have to do it, but I think some are already doing that anyway to help out with their communities. All right. Was it Martha, you had something to say?
Yeah, I don't have that because I don't make over that. I don't get that 40,000. Each year I keep getting a little bit closer. So I'm like going up steps. So I do attend those meetings just in case I'll know what to do when that time comes. And I know that there are other folks out there too that have to do that. Maybe even Mary, because she's got 3 different districts, and I don't know if they count them as one or what, but I think she did mention something about her meeting with Snoqualmie about maybe the tribal consultation. Also too, and I'm not sure if it has to do with the grant, but I know that our school districts have to say how they are working with tribes in the area. So I know that we do a lot of that. I know Michelle and I do a lot of that, and with the Pale tribe. Different things that we do, even NALA being part of NALA, because we use the tribal facilities.
Martha, have you looked at the grant part 2 yet? Do you know what your allocation is this year?
I do not know. I was trying to get into it today, and I was looking through, like Michelle said, Happy Monday. I was looking through my grants, my emails.
Last year I was 39,000 and some change, and this year, so we hadn't had to, and they used last year's count, but this year I'm 41,000 and something, so we'll have to now.
Yeah.
And it's been, I don't know, for me personally, it's been really, because we've been in this weird situation in our district where, let's see, 5 years ago, our superintendent left. And so we got an interim superintendent for the following year because it was kind of unexpected. And so we had an interim superintendent, and I've been really talking to the district about, we need to be doing this. It's the right thing to do. We need to do tribal consultation. But because he was an interim superintendent, they didn't feel like he was the person to do it. Wait till we, hire a permanent one. Well, they were working really hard that first year that he was a superintendent to try to get a levy passed to build another high school, and it didn't. But that didn't happen until February when they found out that it didn't pass. And so they had taken all their time and energy into that levy and hadn't been looking for another superintendent. So he stayed for a second year. So we're in that same situation. We're not going to push tribal consultation. And then at the end of the second year, he was in the process of doing negotiating with the unions. And so he didn't want to leave in the middle of that. So he stayed the third year. So tribal consultation wasn't pushed on again. And so then last year we got a new superintendent. And so I was kind of waiting for him to kind of get his feet underneath him before I started pushing him. And then we shut down. And so, it's been something I've been like knocking at the door for years with them, saying, we need to do this. We need to do this. And so I'm really kind of glad that it's going to have to happen next year.
Yeah, if I keep pushing those 506 forms like they've been coming back pretty good, yeah, I'll be hitting that. I'll be hitting it hopefully within the next 2 years.
Can anybody share their experience, how they navigated that? Reluctance maybe of the district or holding back or change of administration? Does anybody have experience to share regarding that?
With administration support?
With them, yeah, to do tribal consultation.
Yeah, I do the tribal consultation with the 2 tribes that are closest to our school. And I just reach out to tribal council, their secretary, or whoever on tribal, like whoever is the contact person there, and just request a meeting with the council. They usually have a form for us to fill out to say, what are we talking about? Where are we from? Who's going to be there? How much time do we need? And just like basic information. So I fill that out, and then my grant manager, and then he's also the assistant superintendent, and our superintendent will go to the meetings and just talk about our program and different plans that we have. Usually that's kind of where we'll set up if the tribe has like extra money or if they have an extra program or like a grant that we can work with, they will tell us about it, and then we can contact whoever heads that program to try to work with them throughout the school year. You're muted.
What district are you from again, Michaela?
Quileute Valley School District in Forks, Washington.
Okay.
So I do the tribal consultation with the Quileute tribe and the Hoh Indian tribe.
Great.
We are trying to get, this year we were going to try to meet with Nia Bay, but with COVID, it's a lot harder to get on that reservation. And so this year we did our meetings through Zoom, one through Zoom and one through a phone call. So we're hoping next year we can be back to face-to-face. I think it helps more. We also do another consultation or just kind of an update when they get when they have elections, so that the new tribal council members can kind of hear the same thing that everybody else heard at the beginning of the school year. And then if they ever want to request a meeting, or if we want to request a meeting, we just keep in contact between me and the tribal council secretaries.
Michaela, so do you also do the Title III consultation with the tribe for your district?
We mix that in with the Title VI, just because my grant manager manages the same grant.
Great.
So we just kind of do a little bit of an overview of all the grants that he does and all the grants that our Native students can use.
That's great. I think there's still some districts who, many of them I don't think are even aware that they're supposed to be doing tribal consultations for some of their title programs. So, and I don't know, Mary, are you there? She might be rounding up a wild horse outside her mom's house. There's a lot of wild.
Here.
Okay, so that question was kind of
What was
thinking about what you do at your district. You do tribal consultation for different title programs. Can you talk about that for a second?
Well, I know there's there's a couple of different times, because we have one for our title programs because of ESSA. So that's something totally different because it's Washington State. With our grant from Department of Education through Title VI is another consultation that happens because it's required for them to sign, at least for my Title VI grant, to receive funding. So I'm doing consultation several times during the year. So I will do another one in June just for my title programs, so my school districts can receive title funds, because if they're not going to share with our local tribe what their plan is for Title I, Title III, Title IV, all the different title programs, they need to have share that kind of information with the tribe before they even the district even receives its federal funding. So I think there's usually a date in September that form needs to be sent in. But I will also have Snoqualmie Indian Tribe attend my public hearing in May, so I can put their name on there, because that's part of the requirement of our Title VI grant for my school districts. I hope that answered your question.
No, that's good. You're walking it through, and I think for some of the districts, some of them haven't really gotten started on it, and some, like I said, some districts aren't even aware. They've been out of compliance really for all this time, and once they become aware, oh my gosh, you know, and it's going to affect all their title programs. So it seems to me, from my observation, I can just say this: as Mary has done more of this and across the title programs, and her supervisor and superintendent took the compliance issue into a big account, that it did begin to create this desire and need to begin to interface with the tribal councils and tribal entities. So I don't know, Val, if they do other title consultation at your district.
I don't think so, not that I know of.
Yeah, it's that way, and it'll be something that you can kind of ask around and in other districts who might be similar to yours. And so I remember when I think Mary was at NIEA, and she heard at NIEA that Title I requires tribal consultation. I remember she came back, she was ready to go, man. Like, what is going on? So she just let them know we're going to be out of compliance if you don't do this.
So any Title I program they're supposed to be doing tribal consultation? Huh.
I
Yeah,
think
on the
that-
Title I,
that-
it's like a signature page. It lists all the different programs that, including Title VI is on that form too, for
Yeah.
Title I.
And I think for
Wow.
districts that make over $40,000 a year, or they get like over $40,000 a year from Title VI funding, or they have over 50% of their population is Native population. So that's the guidelines for it in ESSA.
Well, I knew that because we weren't getting enough money on our grant, that we hadn't hit that threshold yet. So like I said, I keep telling them we're gonna get there. We might as well start this, but I didn't know that for all the Title I and Title III that they had to. And I know that there've been times when my supervisor, because she does all of our title programs, when she's been filling out for other like Title III, she's had me comment on how I work with the Native students for Title III and get that information and stuff. So I know that they're addressing that. I just didn't know that it was a Title I thing too. Huh.
Yeah, I remember when Mary learned that, it was kind of like, what, and she didn't realize that either. And so that's how it goes. Well, great conversation on that. Anybody have some more comments? And
Yes, I do. Well, here in the Bremerton School District, we have been, we're going through some changes here now. So, me having to take place of somebody else, and I'm still the only one, just like Val, I'm the only one. And out of the 10 schools, we make it really hard to get out there now that they're slowly coming back into in-person or doing basic, learning at home. So our district is really having issues of reaching out to the parents and have involvement. That was been a struggle. And so, but as far as our grant is just about basically for my salary, and then whatever's left over, we end up getting, books for our classrooms, and that way it is all spent, So, but this past 2 years, it hasn't been challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I can share too. So we would do our tribal consultation with the Muckleshoot tribe, and the last 2 years, last year, this year, they opted to do a group consultation. So last year's ended up getting canceled because of COVID. So what they asked us to do instead was they sent us a document and a one-page thing they call the metrics, where we put in by level, grade point average and discipline, and are they at meeting standard, that kind of thing. And then the consultation document has questions like last year and this year both said, how do you support your students during remote or distance learning? So it's, it's quite a bit. I think there's like 12 questions, but number 1 goes all the way to H. So it's really like 22 questions. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I understand that Auburn School District, Enumclaw School District, Kent, Renton, so probably Seattle, whoever has to consult with Muckleshoot got that document. And the first week of May, we'll see how it goes. But just thought I'd share.
quick question, Robin, when you said the form, did you get that from the tribe or from OIE?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, they send,
Who sends?
okay, so the tribe sends the questions they want us to answer. And so that's what I was referring to. But I do know that like our title programs, because maybe about 3 years ago, we did a consultation where we brought our title folks. So the one in charge of Title II, Title IV, Title III, Title I, and myself, Title III. So we all went to the tribe and presented our programs. It was really great because that was just Auburn with Muckleshoot leadership, and it was a real true back and forth conversation. So I'm curious, and there were some good outcomes from that. But now I'm curious, when you're going to try to, in 2 hours time, have a meeting with, I don't know, 6 or 8 school districts. I don't know how that will go. We'll see.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. That's great experience, and that'd be really helpful for people. I was just going to add that with the increased accountability when this is all coming together, that might be also a little bit of fire lighting under the district to move some of the title grant programs around to support your salaries. So the district is accountable to these federal monies for serving Native children, you know. So it's kind of an interesting thing that way. And I know some of the districts have done that, and some in the past have done that. They use title monies to help support Title VI coordinator salaries. Somebody had a comment. I'm sorry. Who was that? Yeah. You're muted.
Shoot, I was really talking too. No, I was just thinking, Robin, like when you do the consultation, like, do you know if your other title programs are in on that conversation? Do you have to coordinate all of that? Are you the one that they come to? Because
Yes. So that's a really good question. Native Ed is not supposed to be the one. That's what, you know, like Laura Lynn and so forth. I remember them telling us we're not the ones that have to be in charge. But I will say, who's the one that care? You know, we're the ones that care. We want to make sure these things go forward. We're also the, you know, culturally competent. Like we know how to connect with the tribes and, you know, how to interact and everything like that. So it does become collaboration. I would recommend, so what I did, so if I'm writing to my counterparts, well, not even counterparts because they're people higher than me. So from the student learning or school programs or whatever it is, I can ask them to do something, but you know how it will be. Like maybe they'll do it or maybe not. But if it comes from my boss and she creates this scenario, I need this from you by this date, it's right away. And so that's how I would do it. I would, you know, bring it to your boss, explain as best you can or whatever, but have it come from them and, you know, also keep a timeline with it. But the title, those people all know that when they're applying for their grant, that they have to get that tribal signature. So they know it now. So they expect to have to do something.
Right. We had our Title I person leave in September, right, as she got our tribal person's signature, but didn't get our superintendent's signature. So OSPI had our form, but only one of the signatures. And then everybody came to me, hey, where's that form? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I says, well, I have a copy, but I only have with the tribal signature. So then went round and round, and I emailed Joan, and then Joan's like, the only one I have is with the one signature. So then they were all scrambling to get the other signature. And I'm like, why are they coming to me? I just seem to get that. Or if they have any questions about it, I'm like, that's your program. You should know what's going on with your, but it seems like I'm having to know what about everybody's program and what they all have to do when it comes to tribal consultation. And it's just like, I'm trying to keep my own job straight.
No, that is a district responsibility to be in compliance. So great you bring that up and share that. Mary wrote, we are starting to include our school boards for consultation, trying to bring our school board members into the conversation. Then she said to Robin, that's great that you have questions from the tribes. I like how you do consultation, Robin. So, cool. All right, some good conversation here on this topic. Any other questions?
I have a quick one. It's not really about the grant. This is just my own curiosity. I know that this year we've lost a lot of students from our district, and it seems like we've been kind of like hemorrhaging kids out of here. And so I'm just curious, especially like with CK and Bremerton and stuff, are you guys seeing the same kind of thing? Because we were always running about 10,000, a little more or less, and now we're like 8,600 kids. So we've lost a lot of kids. So I'm just curious, is everybody else seeing that same kind of stuff, or is it just nobody likes Port Orchard? No. So you
Our
guys
number, our Auburn went down, our both in the district and in the Native Ed program.
Yeah, I was kind of pretty happy that even with all the people that have got left the district, my count was only 2 less than last year. So either I was really slacking off last year or I did a really good job this year.
I know in Bremerton, our numbers have dropped too. I think they were by 5, from last year's numbers, but yeah, it's really,
wide. I mean, you like the district population, has it gone down significantly? Have you seen a big shift?
oh yeah, there is a big shift. Yeah.
Okay.
Ours went down too. In fact, it affected staffing in our district too, where they were scrambling to try and figure out what to do with all the teachers because our student counts were so low. And I know I had a drop in my student count, and a lot of those kids went to homeschooling or just other places. So that was, I mean, people aren't moving away. They're just not
Going away.
yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of crazy at the beginning of the school year as far as, geez, are we going to have a job because there's no kids, so it was crazy.
We had the same thing in my districts. I had a lot of kids went to private schools, whether they were Native students or non-Native students, the homeschool, and then students who didn't graduate, whether they were, and I only had one student that didn't graduate, but non-Native students, they're going to like the Lake Washington Technical, there's a high school program there. And so the numbers went up there because you can take other programs like the CEO program at Bellevue College. So some of our students are ending up there that are in high school. And then I had 3 very active families move to Mukilteo. And so there were different places that they were going to, but private school got some of our students. So I think our private schools are probably doing very well right now.
Yeah, we had that too. I know that in our area, with daycares closed and everything and parents having to work, it was cheaper for them to put their child in a private school and they were getting school every day than it was for them to hire a babysitter to watch them, for them to Zoom it. So we lost a lot from that.
Wow. All right, I'm going to jump back here. I think we can combine these 2 areas, open hearing and IPC approval and signing. So, any tips, experience you'd like to share regarding signing and open hearings?
Just get your public hearing out there quickly so you can hear it done. Yeah, so you're gonna get your public hearing done and quickly. I usually wait till to finish my grant. Well, you have to because you have to upload your form. But so mine's April 29th, but I'm doing it as Zoom again this year because last year I did the same thing.
One of the things that they said on the webinar too is that as soon as you certify, they start looking at your grant. And I don't send my grant in. I'm almost done. I mean, I started it today. I've got like 75% of my grant done. Years ago, I got, you know, the second part came in. We weren't changing anything in our program. It was all pretty much the same. It was just basically adjusting the budget and sending it off. So I did that and got it in pretty early. And I just kept getting these emails and they just wanted more and things that they were asking about that in previous years they never asked about. I did everything they asked. We got it all in and they were finally happy. But from that time on, I learned my lesson. I do not send my grant in more than like a week ahead of the deadline because I don't want to give them a lot of time on their hands and nothing else happening. No other grants will come in. So let's see what Val's doing here. Oh, let's call her up and have her send some more copies of this and that, you know? Yeah. So
I also remember you warned people at the last Zoom meeting we had, what was it, power or something?
Yeah, it was part one of the grant. And so that's usually like January, February time, middle of winter. And there was a big storm back east and big one that like took out power all over the place. And the computers at OIE were down on the last day. And so some people weren't able to get their count in because the OIE computers were down and they did not cut them any slack. They had no program for that year. It was like, well, sorry, you know, you had even, I mean, you would think if it's on their end, they would give you a little bit of grace, but they don't. So don't count on them being kind to you. I was shocked actually that they're letting us use last year's student count. I was like, what? Yeah.
Interesting. And it sounds like some of the data stuff has been reduced. I think standardized testing in a lot of districts are being reduced and stuff like that too. Let me see here. I think we're pretty much through our stated topics. So as we get ready to wrap up here, what would you say are at least one pitfall in your mind that people should avoid? And maybe another recommendation. So I'm going to choose people. Michelle, what pitfall do you think people should avoid? You're muted.
Well, that's okay. I wasn't saying anything. Not that time. The pitfall. Other than the stuff I've already said.
Okay, great. You've already covered.
I mean,
stuff. That's great.
Yeah, a lot of the things I already said.
Any other recommendations on your brain? Anything coming to surface?
No, not off the top of my head,
Okay.
no.
How about you, Robin? Which pitfall do you think they should avoid and any other recommendations?
I'm not sure about pitfall right now, but recommendations, I would just say, and probably everybody already does this, but I always include cultural identity and awareness, something along that line, because we know that school districts and school leaders can sometimes be really, really focused on academics and attendance, of course. And yes, we assist with that. Like that's probably the bulk of what we do. But I love being able to fall back and say, well, this is our grant objective, that we're increasing cultural identity and awareness, whatever that objective is. So that's one of my recommendations. Because to me, if we're not doing that, why are we there? Because you have a whole schoolhouse of professionals that can teach, and make sure kids are there.
Thank you. Val?
Well, I'd say the pitfall is don't send your grant in too soon. You don't want to be talking to them a lot. And I guess my suggestion is, especially this year, as you're filling out the grant, print those pages, because you won't be able to print the completed thing until it's been certified. So you'll need that for your parent council meeting.
Okay. Janet Lynn, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, we do some cultural awareness, trying to reach out to the families that through email so far. And I've also forgot to even mention that collaborating with the local tribes. I have been doing that with the Suquamish tribe and also with the Skalatum tribe. And so, because I've been so involved with them for the past 15 years. And so I've created a partnership. And so, and whenever I get stuck with anything that in regards to our students that are graduating, I contact them, and then they're able to, reciprocate back to me what ideas and things that they can able to help me with. So, but I also have to agree with Val not to turn in your your application early, because we've done that several years ago and we had the same issue. And they were hounding us, to make sure that everything was completely what they wanted. And so when we submitted the grant, then we get another email back saying, well, the same issue, so we had to rewrite it to where they would able to understand it. Yeah, so we've been waiting until like maybe 2-3 days before we submit it. And so that way we weren't able to, get any feedback. That was our worry, is it going to be accepted, And so that was the pitfall, but anyways.
All right, thank you.
Even if you do send in your grant, like before the deadline, and even if they've got questions, if it was submitted before the deadline and they have stuff, you have an opportunity even after that deadline to answer questions and stuff. They have to give you that time. I think it's a small window probably, but they have to allow you a chance to answer questions or clarify things if you need to.
And so now we're also making copies, everything that we've done, we want to make sure that we have it in file. So then we got something to look forward, look at for next year. Say, yeah. Oh, this is what we did. And now here we are, So that's my piece. Thanks.
Thank you. Michaela, do you have any input here? So we get ready to wrap up. All right, well, she might have stepped away. Mary, do you have any input?
Just wait. Let's see. If they do come back with questions, and I've had that happen to me several years in a row because I submit early too. And it's nice to call up a colleague in our WWNAEC organization and just say, hey, I'm going to read you this question. What do you think? And then it helps me clear my mind and move forward with answering the question, because sometimes I think we look at the question and we read more into what they're really asking. And so I've been careful about not letting myself get too wound up, because it just causes more headaches, you know, for doing the program. So I always do a check-in with someone else and say, hey, I got this question. What do you think? And then once I have a conversation, then I'm able to go back and answer the question. Because last year, one was around qualitative and quantitative measures. And they're saying, you know, just don't use the standardized tests. What qualitative and what quantitative measures are you using for these different activities? And so then I thought, what am I going to do? Reinvent the wheel? I've got to think of all these things to do to show progress with my my goals and objectives. And then once I talked to Dorothy Apple, you know, we thought about it, and I thought, I'm already doing this with my surveys and with all the other measures that I use. And so then I just wrote to that. But at first I was like freaking out, like, what am I going to do? I don't know what they're asking me. So it's always nice to be able to call a Michelle or a Robin or a Val or, you know, Janet Lynn, just to bounce off those questions, because sometimes, you know, when you do certify early, there is that possibility that you're going to be asked to, you know, open your grant back up and answer those questions and then recertify. And then I think the GEPA statements, if anyone's having problems with the GEPA statement, last year they picked mine apart and I had been using the same one for 5 or 6 years. And so so I even went to my district and said, can you please, because they said, go to your district and get your district GEPA statement. So I asked everyone that I could think of that would have a GEPA statement, and they're like, we're not required to have that. So I know I called a few of you and so rewrote a GEPA statement. So I'm going to just reuse that same GEPA statement this year. So if anyone runs into a problem with a GEPA statement not being what they're looking for, call me, because I've got a pretty good one, I think, because it was ripped apart last year and it's rewritten. And basically I thought it was rewritten about the same way. So I just changed a few words, but it is a requirement. So I would suggest, you know, when pitfalls come, let's reach out to one another and support one another. And it just makes it easier when we're getting ready to maybe recertify a grant that was already certified. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Mary. Gaynell, do you have anything you can put in the chat? Any ideas? And let you work on that. And Michaela, did you get your headphones and you have something?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I share an office, so we have another meeting going on, so I had to grab those really quick. But I was looking for the agenda. What were you asking for?
Okay, so any we're winding up here, and are there any what are they called again? Pitfalls that you think people should really watch out for and avoid, and any other recommendations as we close out?
I feel like a lot of people are well seasoned in this job more than I am. So one thing that I learned was to document stuff. Like when we go in to do our goals and say, this is what I've done this school year and this is kind of how it met my goals and what area it supported. I was able to create a support log just where I was able to type in every student I was helping, what grade, if their parents were contacted or not. That was just for my reference. And then I listed my goals, like the readiness for school, attendance, and graduation rates, or whatever goals you choose. I did those, and then right at the end, after entering all the information, I just was able to check whichever goal it supported. And then at the end of the year, or when we were entering our data, I was able to just go back to that and get a quick number of how many things I did this school year that supported attendance or graduation or readiness to academics and stuff like that. So that was really helpful. I also don't do the grant by myself. I work with my grant manager. So I'm still learning how to kind of do it on my own. So I really like these, like Mary was saying, being able to reach out to people and send a quick email, or like these Zooms that we've been having lately have been helping a lot with the tips.
Thank you. Thank you, Michaela. All right, Martha, any pitfalls to avoid that haven't been stated or you want to reinforce, and then any last
Yeah,
recommendations?
yeah, definitely reinforce, we are, the consortium is getting bigger. And there's a lot of folks that I wish would have attended today, but maybe they're on spring break this week. We don't know. I don't know who's all on spring break, but to definitely reinforce the if you're left out alone out there, because a lot of us work in our own by ourselves, you're not alone because like I said, the consortium is really big, and sharing is a big part of that. If you don't have a question, like Mary says, reach out to somebody. You can always call somebody, email somebody. If you don't have an answer, there's somebody that has that answer, can help you with a question that you have. So that's what I wanted to do. Just reinforce that.
Thank you, Martha. Let's see here. Gaynell wrote in the chat, I don't have anything else that hasn't already been discussed. I appreciate everyone's wisdom. Cool. There was a question, may I be able to get the slides from the Zoom meeting? Those slides I had that I downloaded from the OIE website. So let me show you. Oops, that's not it. Duh. So if you go back to the source, the spring of all knowledge. Oh, that's still wrong. What's the matter with me? Somebody help. Mary's gone, so she can't help me.
It's Monday, Arlie.
I'm all on my own here. Where did that go? I know it's here. That's it. It's wide open. Try share again one more time. There it is. Cool. Yeah, so if you go again to this website, easygrads360.org, then if you click on EASIE Part 2, over here on the right side are the webinar slides. Oops, I'm just covering everything up. I know I'm doing that. I'm trying not to. So Part 2, EASIE, come to me. It's stuck. Why is it stuck? It's not doing anything. There we go. Now go back to Part 2. Oh, here they are. Okay, so on the right side, view the webinar. So I downloaded from here, EASIE 2021 Part 2. Oh, this is reallocation. So I downloaded from here Part 2 webinar. So, and you can get the PowerPoint slides, and that's where I got mine. And also you can, if you didn't get to be attending the webinar, you can view those webinars there. And once again, I highly recommend if there's question and answer sessions that you download those too. There was some things regarding digital signature that was put on one of those question and answer, and I grabbed it really fast. And I don't know if it was just a comment or if it's just one person's point of view regarding digital signatures, but I have it, and I'm helping out with Edmonds a little bit, and I sent it to them, and I said, this was, somebody stated this at OIE, so that's what I say. So as we get ready to round up here, everybody, thank you for coming. Some of you I know are in spring break, and it's a beautiful day out today. I hope you get to go outside. And thanks, Mary, for joining in all the way across another country. International travel. She's on international travel.
I'm trying to get my mom's attention. I want you to see my beautiful mother. Hold on.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
She's something and she can't hear me, so hold on. Mom, I wanted you to come and wave to everyone. Just wait. Here she comes. So I think I'm on day 12 of my self-isolation, but I'm having a blast.
About time you guys got off. You're going to talk forever.
I right, good to see everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you
Thank you.
soon.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Arlie.
everybody have a good week. Take care.
All right, bye.